should be like you, Mel.
Ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Well, good morning and welcome back to On the Sidelines after our little break last week. Myself and Paul are back. Paul, how are you doing?
Yeah, great, Matt. Happy to be back. We've had the most beautiful day here today. In Australia, it's been like, I think it was 24 degrees, sun, just a fabulous day. It's about 17 now. So, been doing it tough today, Matt.
Excellent. Yeah, I've woke up to
How's your place?
Say again?
How's the weather at your place there?
Yeah, well, I've woken up this morning to a beautiful sunshine and a frost, believe it or not. So, it's looking like it's going to be a beautiful day today if this holds out. Very nice. But we've got a packed show today. We will be looking at the Bournemouth-Burnley game. Towards the end of the show, Paul will give his views and opinions on that. We'll have a look a little bit on some Cherries news. And we will also, as always, cover off the fixtures, give our predictions and what we think is going to happen this weekend. But we do also have a special guest halfway through the show that will be joining us. But we'll keep that secret for a little bit longer on who that's going to be. But let's jump into the chat first before we do Spot the Ball. We do have Spot the Ball as always, but there's a few messages in the chat. So let's say hello to everybody. Hope everybody's well. First in this week is Vanessa and the Watkins gang. Good morning. We are all looking forward to the show. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Hope you're well. Nick's in. Good evening all. Greetings from Sydney.
Matt, I need to talk about Nick. Can I just say something about Nick? I had a lovely text from Nick this afternoon, and in Australia, the Premier League soccer, including Bournemouth, is televised by Stan.
Yeah.
I believe he was in Sydney today. I want Nick to give me a bit more information. He went up and went to the Stan Fans Festival. And he got some Australian TV personalities, ex-soccer players there. And he signed a great big football, and he signed it about AFC Bournemouth. He'll tell us, hopefully, in the text. I think he signed Up the Cherries on there. So a big thing that I didn't even know it was on. He told me, texted me, sent me a picture of his time in Sydney today. So good on you, Nick. Thanks for commenting, mate.
Excellent. Yeah, I think there is a little bit about that further on in the chat. Excellent.
That's his channel there. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a great channel. Some great content on Nick's channel. So yeah, if you haven't checked out Nick's channel, Nick's World of Football, do check that out. David Acosta here as always. Let's not talk to him about the art of goalkeeping. Good morning, Matt and Paul. On location in Coffs Harbour. New
Yep.
South Wales, 24 degrees and sunny. Looking forward to another great show, and hello to all in the chat.
Oh, that's nice.
Excellent. Hope you're well, David.
Just for those people in England, Coffs Harbour's like northern New South Wales, and it's like 4 hours from the Queensland border, and it's on the coast. So he's on the beach there, sunning himself for 2 weeks with his wife. So
lovely.
Lovely. Having a great holiday. So that's great.
Yeah, hope you enjoy yourself, Dave. Of course, Malcolm's in. Wouldn't be a show without Malcolm popping in. Hope you're well, Malcolm. Good morning, Matt, Paul, and everyone in the chat. Slightly damp and 10 degrees here in Berlin. Wow, he had some snow and all sorts a few weeks back, and now it's damp and 10 degrees. But yeah, great to have you with us, Malcolm, as always. And Nick was at the Stan Sports Fan Fest earlier today. It sounds like something similar that they do in America. Craig Foster says hi to all Aussie Cherries fans.
Yeah, he's an ex-Australian international soccer player, and he's now a TV pundit. He was with another channel. I think it was Optus or SBS or something, and then he was SBS. But now he's working for Stan, a commentator.
It's funny you should say that about pundits, and Nick might know this. Might know if I'm pretty certain. When it was the football's on Optimus Sport, one of the pundits on there was Sean McDonald, who used to play for Australia.
Yeah,
played for Bournemouth. Is that right? Was he on that channel? I think he was, wasn't he?
I believe so. Ginger hair. Yeah.
Chris Hubble, good morning, Matt Paul. Good morning, Chris. Hope you're well. Now we've got 3 of the same messages here from Julie, so I'm only going to show one of them.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, both. Looking forward to the show. Julie, yeah, hope you're well, Julie. Not too sure why the message has come through 3 times. But yeah, great to have you with us as always. David's in. Good morning, Matt and Paul. Looking forward to the show. Just watched the F1 qualifying.
Wow. Motor racing. Yeah.
Another great show, Matt and Paul from Aussie Geordie, Newcastle, Australia. Great to have you here, Darren.
Yeah. See you tomorrow, Darren. No shorts, please, for the customers. Thank you.
Yeah, Kelly Sommers. Yeah, she used to work for the club as well. Yeah, she does a lot. I think she's like a freelance. I think she's also on BBC. I think is she Kelly? I think can't remember. There's so many of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And the mother-in-law, Paul.
Oh, okay.
So right. David's with the mother-in-law.
Right. Lovely.
Right. Would you rather be with the mother-in-law or Tottenham's keeper from Wednesday night? Let us know, Dave. Anyway, right, let's move swiftly on. We have got Spot the Ball, so let's quickly do that before we have a little look at some sort of Cherries international news. And here's this week's Spot the Ball. So A, B, C, or D. This is an action shot from the Burnley game from a few seasons ago. As you can see there, they are attacking the Bournemouth goal. But where is the ball? A, B, C, or D? So put your guesses in the chat. I'll star the guesses, and we'll have a look at that at the end of the show. Paul, do you want to have a quick go at it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've got Dom Solanke in the middle, and he's looking straight at B, so I'm definitely going. But it doesn't line up with the keeper, does it? But you know what? I'm going B. I'm definitely going B. Yeah.
Paul's going with B.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, there we go. Just bring it up on the screen again very quickly. So A, B, C, and D. You pick one of those, pop it in the chat. I'll star your comment, and we'll look at the comments at the end of the show when we reveal where the ball is. So, yeah, excellent. Well, there we go. Paul's going with B, and there's some clues coming into the chat already. So thank you, everybody, and we'll have a look a little bit later on. But Paul, let's have a quick look at some Cherries news, just to get some views and opinions. I'm going to have a quick look at this, and this is about Ryan, who's obviously made the I think he's named a 30-man squad, and I think it's going to cut down to 26 or something like that. So Yeah, our new star Ryan has been included in Brazil's preliminary squad for their friendlies later this month. Ryan was on the radar of the boss and former Real Madrid manager Carlo Ancelotti while he was at his previous club. The 26-man squad will be announced this coming Monday. Do we expect Ryan to be in that final 26? And will Ryan go to the World Cup? So let's have some opinions there then. Guys in the chat, if you want to throw in your views and opinions on this, then please do. Paul, not surprised. He's been obviously monitored by the manager for quite some time. He's played at different levels for Brazil as well. He's come to Bournemouth, made a real impact, hit the ground running. I think, I'd like to see him make that 26-man squad. Obviously, we all know how important these friendlies are coming up because obviously we've got the World Cup coming up as well. So this is really the last chance for people to kind of make an impact. What do you think with this?
Look, I think it's great news for Bournemouth because he is going to be playing out of his skin at Turf Moor at Burnley. He'll want to. All these guys that want to go to the World Cup in the Bournemouth squad, and we're blessed to have so many that are that great players that they will go to the World Cup. I reckon it'll be interesting. I reckon he'll go because he's played at youth level or at every level with Brazil, and he's now coming to reckoning for the first time. Obviously, because of the dynamic start he's had with Bournemouth, and mate, he only wants to go and get a couple of goals at Burnley, and he'll be in for sure. But, easy to say get a couple of goals at Burnley, but you never know, do you? You never know. Got to be positive. I think he'll be in, Matt. I think he'll go. Yeah.
No, I've got a real positive feeling about this because there's a lot of traction about him in Brazil. Everyone's monitoring him. All the fans are really, interested in him out there. There's a lot of, since his move to the Premier League and before that, there's been a lot of interest in him. I think the game's against France and Croatia, if I remember rightly, coming up. So there's some good opposition that they're going to be facing. So yeah, I've got a feeling he's going to make this 26-man squad.
You actually told me something interesting, Matt. You said to me that you had a request. Could you put Spanish subtitles on the show for Brazilian fans that were watching this show due to Ray and I guess Evan Nielsen as well? I don't know quite where Evan Nielsen's at.
Yeah, there was a comment on one of the shows that was done. I think it was might have been a Dean Court social where we had, it was about Ryan and he's there was a comment on there to say thank you because we have subtitled everything, so wherever you're watching it in the world, it translates our voices.
Brilliant.
They are able to watch. We can be watched wherever in the world. It translates us, so they actually thanked us for doing that because obviously there's a lot of interest, with Ryan in Brazil. Nick's just put something interesting in the chat here. I was approached by a Vasco fan earlier today at the Fan Fest. Said we got Ryan for an absolute bargain. Yeah, that is very, very true. I think the money we paid for him is unreal, really.
It's 10 million less than Evan Nielsen, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So,
yeah. And Portuguese.
Oh, sorry. Well, Nick would know. Yeah.
So, Malcolm's also popped a comment in. It would be amazing if he went to the World Cup. I think he will be in the 26-man squad against France and Croatia. Yeah, it is France and Croatia. So, yeah.
See, Matt, as well, those teams that he's playing against, we've got Krupi. I don't know whether he'll be in that French squad. And we've also got Petrovic in Croatian squad, and we've also got.
He's in the Serbian squad, Paul.
Different. Okay, all the same. Yeah, all the same. But you know what I'm trying to. It is Serbia. Yeah, you're right. It is. I got my Portuguese and my Serbians muddled up already, haven't I? But same sort of thing. But there you go. Yeah. But Krupi was right, wasn't it?
Yeah, Krupi represents France. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think Rayan will get into the squad, this 26-man squad. I hope he gets some game time. And do you know what? I think he will go to the World Cup. I got a great feeling that he will, and that'd be excellent to see. I said a little while ago about Krupi as well. I think, I wouldn't be surprised if Krupi snuck into the France squad. But let's see what happens. But on that note, and for the chat, how many Cherries will go to the World Cup? So just out of interest, how many players do you reckon we will see that represent AFC Bournemouth at the World Cup? There's going to be some playoffs as well coming up. But yeah, hopefully we could see quite a few players at the World Cup that represent Bournemouth. Alex Scott there, pictured there. I hope he gets his opportunity and gets called up again to show what he can do. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It could be quite a year at the World Cup for the Cherries, Paul.
Definitely, mate. Well, those four, you've got Brooksy. He's a regular for Wales. You've got Ryan Christie there, regular for Scotland. Alex Scott is on the fringe, isn't he, at the moment? Again, it's great news for Bournemouth because he's going to be pushing. He'll want to put in a really solid performance tomorrow, or today, your time. He'll want to put in a solid performance, mate. And obviously, Marcus Senesi, Argentina. Good stuff. And we've also forgotten someone who's on the comeback trail, haven't we? Mr. Gannon Dokes.
Plenty of names.
Yeah. The list goes on. I mean, I don't think. Hard to know. It's hard to know with Alex Scott, isn't it? There's so much competition in midfield for England. He'd be the one. I'd say 75% sure. I couldn't be 100% sure with him. But he's been playing out of his skin. He's been brilliant. Love him to go.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just a little bit there from David. So he believes that Ryan's worth the spot in the Brazil squad. And also just a little bit from David as well. Mother-in-law, 92, and is a better keeper. So there we go.
And Dave, say hi to Janice because I think she could do a better job as well, mate. So, his wife, Dave's wife, yeah.
Well, our guest is here. So he will shortly be joining us. But let's have a look at the Premier League fixtures this week. Just quickly before we do, Colin's just joined us. Hi, guys. Bit late in joining, but good to tune in, Matt and Paul. Thank you, Colin. Great to have you with us. No music feature this week, by the way, everybody, at the end, due to having a special guest this week. But yeah, we will bring our music feature back for future shows. That will be something that will continue. But as we've got a special guest joining us this week, we've decided not to do that. But let's have a look at the fixtures, shall we, Paul? So this is the fixtures, and we've checked them before we came on live, and I have got them all right this week. So, of course, 3 o'clock, no early kickoff today. 3 o'clock, Burnley Bournemouth. The big one, the big important game. Paul will give us his views on that one at the end of the show. And for my views and opinions, do check out the Dean Court Social, which is now out on the channel. Sunderland Brighton at 3 p.m. Arsenal Everton at 5:30. Chelsea Newcastle also at 5:30. And then you've got West Ham against Man City at 8 p.m. Paul, let's start with the Sunderland Brighton game. How do you think that one's going to pan out?
I actually think with the fans, the volume and noise they make up at Sunderland, I've got to go with Sunderland, Matt, on that to win. What do you reckon?
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, Brighton, could get something out of this game there, and I understand what you're saying, and I know their home form's been excellent this year, but do you know what? I think think this could be a good. I think this could be a good game. Do you know what? I think I'm going to go for a draw there.
Well, that's the best result for Bournemouth. They're
Yes.
all floating around that area where we are. That's the best outcome for us, mate. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully, I'm going to go with a score draw there. I can't really think on how many goals, but I'm going to go with a score draw on that one. Yeah, I'm going to go 1-1.
Okay.
On that one. Arsenal, Everton, then 5:30. Obviously, Arsenal need to keep getting those points in the bag to keep City at bay. Arsenal being the home side, I think Arsenal win this one. I think Arsenal win this one 3-0. Paul, what do you reckon?
I'm thinking along the same lines, mate. They're too good. Their squad they've got 2 men for every position, haven't they? Yeah, they're too strong, and I think they'll win that for sure. 100%. Yeah.
That's an Arsenal win there. Chelsea, Newcastle. Now, Newcastle had a very good performance against Barcelona earlier on in the week. Very unfortunate to give that penalty away with the literally the last kick of the game. You
know what, Matt? I'll add something to that. Eddie Howe very upset about that because that penalty was given in the 5th minute of injury time.
Yes.
And there was only 4 given. And I don't blame him. That's, where did a minute come from in that game? Where did it come from? That was wrong. That was wrong, that. But that could mean so much to Newcastle. I'm actually going to go for a draw on Chelsea, Newcastle. I think that'll be a draw.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Do you know what? I could see that as well. I mean, Chelsea, have a little bit of a, since the new manager's come in, a bit of a funny run, haven't they? Dropped some silly points. Newcastle, really do need, to keep picking up points. I'm going to agree with you on that one. Yeah, let's go draw. On that one. Chelsea, Newcastle, draw. And a fairly big game, massive game for West Ham. At 8 p.m. they face Man City. Obviously, Man City, looking to keep the pressure on Arsenal. West Ham needing the points to pull away from the relegation battle. But unfortunately, I can't see West Ham getting anything here. But then again, City have dropped some silly points this season. But for me, I think City will be too strong for them. So I'm going to go City win. Paul, what do you think on that one?
I think coming off that 3-0 hiding in Europe in the week, I think they'd have had their backsides kicked well and truly, mate, to say what's going on here. Your highly paid professionals. I think they'll come out and I think they could give them a good clobbering. I think they could win 3-1, even more. That's all right, West Ham revival and everything, but it's too much. City have got too much firepower there, mate. I mean, what a forward line. What a forward line with Semenyo and Haaland. How do you stop them two? No, too much. Yeah, you're right. City for me, mate.
Yeah, and like you say, they're definitely going to want a response after the defeat midweek. So Pep will be looking for them to bounce straight back. So, I go City win there. So that's the Saturday games. Let us know if there's any predictions or any thoughts you guys have got. Drop it in the chat. Let's take a look at Sunday then. So we've got Palace Leeds at 2 p.m, followed by Manchester United and Villa at 2 p.m. I say followed by. All these games are at 2 p.m. Forest and Fulham also at 2 p.m. And then a massive game at 4:30. We've got Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously Spurs, we know, is struggling. The massive club at the bottom of the league at the minute. Going to definitely need some points in the bag ASAP. But let's start with Palace Leeds, Paul. Do you know what? I've got a feeling here, and I don't know. Don't really want to say it, but I think Leeds might win this one.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking their eyes are getting on. They want to get to 40 points ASAP. That must be the way that club's thinking. I think they'll go for it. It's going to be a close one, but I think Leeds will have the edge on that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so we're gonna go Leeds on that one then. Manchester United Villa. Now I know Manchester United have now had their decent run under Carrick. came to a halt, didn't it? But and Villa also chasing that European football. But do you know what, Paul? I think I'm going to go United here.
Yep. Funny thing, you must be a mind reader, mate. I want them to win. I mean, they've always got the referee on their team. We know that much. And every VAR decision, probably 80% goes their way. But I believe that. But anyway, they want United in Europe. Premier League, they want those teams in Europe. I hope they win. You know why I hope they win? Because guess where they're playing Friday night? So, I want them to be confident. I want them to go along. Oh, we're great. Yeah, we won that game. Yeah, we're brilliant. I want them to go to Dean Court feeling that. The worst thing that can happen for Bournemouth is that they lose at home. Then they're going to come out thinking, oh, we've got to do something now. Now, I'm going for United with my fingers crossed, mate, for sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely United. Nottingham Forest and Fulham.
Yeah. I reckon I'm going for a Forest win. I think they'll do
Are
it.
you?
I am, yeah, because I think Fulham have become a bit complacent of late. I mean, Wilson's injured. He didn't play in the last game, and he makes a huge. Whether he'll come back, I'm not sure, but he makes a huge difference for them. He's a brilliant player. He was great when he played with us, wasn't he? But yeah, no, I'm actually going to go for a Forest win there. I know Dave will love me for that up in Cox Harbour, but I think they might do it. Not by much, but what do you reckon, Melly?
I'm going to go a draw here, you know.
You what?
I'm going to go with a draw.
A draw, yeah, well, could be.
I'm going to go with a draw. Yeah, a draw on that one. That's my feeling with that one. Well, the big one, Paul, Liverpool, Tottenham. David's looking very confident with this one. Liver VAR 6, Spurs 1. Do you know what? Yeah, I mean, I can't see it being anything else than a Liverpool win here. You know, it's just, yeah, after seeing what happened, I didn't watch the game. We had the Newcastle game on, but the Spurs, I did see the sort of first 15 minutes, you know, bit of highlights with the goalkeeping situation, and yeah, it just seems a bit of a, it just doesn't seem it's getting any better for him. So I can't see anything but a Liverpool win, Paul.
Yeah, agree. If I had a crystal ball, I'd love to see the half-time score. Now, if that half-time score is something like 3-0, then look out. I think they're going to cop a real flogging. If it's 1-0, I do. I can't help but say it. But, yeah, Liverpool, you know, I mean, football's funny, but it's not that funny. You know, it's funny. It's not that funny. I can't see any other result. Yeah. I'm thinking it could be dangerous, this game. For Spurs, I'm thinking maybe 3-4-0. Yeah, because Liverpool will be hurt, and they went and lost in Europe, didn't they? In the week, yeah, they lost 1-0, so they'll be hurting, mate. They'll be want to come back, and the fans are going to get on their case. So, can't see any other outcome, Matty, on that.
Yeah. Well, that's the Sunday fixtures. That's our thoughts and predictions for that one. But we do have one more game to look at, and that is, of course, Brentford and Wolves. Now, Wolves sort of putting some decent performances lately, Paul. Brentford, we all know what Brentford are capable of. Even though I think they had a defeat in their last game, didn't they?
They did. Yeah, lovely to see. I love to see it. Yeah. Look, I'm gonna keep all the Wolves fans happy in Bundoon, mate. And I'm actually gonna go out on a limb. And I think Wolves will win this game against the odds. I think they could win this. Their spirit's risen over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and you know, that's my opinion. I think Wolves will win. I couldn't give you a score, but I think they'll win.
Yeah,
but I know you're going to say Brentford, Matt, and I understand that. I can understand that for sure. They're a difficult side.
No, do you know what? I'm finding this one difficult because, you know, Wolves could do something there.
Been a reprisal, haven't they, at Wolves?
Yeah. I'm going to edge it with Brentford. I think I'm going to edge it with Brentford on that one. I think that's what I'll edge it with. Just quickly jumping into the comments. Very quickly. We've seen that one from David. Let's get a Bournemouth win away, Matt. Yeah, definitely, Chris. Let's hope so. Malcolm, some interesting games this weekend. Spurs won't get anything at Liverpool. Sunderland to draw at home, which I think I said that. Was that Sunderland Brighton, wasn't it? I said that would be a draw. Arsenal to win. Chelsea draw.
That's what we said.
Ham, and West Ham might sneak a draw too.
I can't see West Ham.
But you never know. With the way they've dropped some points, City this season, would it surprise you this season if it ended up as a draw? I don't think it would, but I think City will edge it. I do think City will edge it. But that's Malcolm's opinions there, which is very, very good. Thank you, Mal, for that. Right, okay. Well, our special guest, we're going to introduce our special guest now. And we're very lucky today to be joined by Colin Luff, who is a former NSL player in Australia. And this is the point where I get to hand over to my co-host, who doesn't do as much talking as me, who's going to lead this one. So I'm going to hand you over to Paul now. I hope you enjoy it. Any questions for Colin? Do pop them in the chat. We do have a packed interview for him. So what we'll do is we'll try and do a little follow-up interview with him at some point and ask your questions directly to him. But yeah, so if we don't get your questions in, that'll be the reason why. But for now, we'll see you shortly.
Pleasure to have Colin here today, Colin Luff, who's played at the highest level soccer in Australia, football in Australia. Welcome, Colin.
Welcome.
And great to have you on board, mate.
No worries.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So, as I say, you've played in the NSL with 2 clubs, and who were they, Col? What were your clubs that you played with, mate?
Yeah, it was in the mid 90s to late 90s. It was main career was with Wollongong Wolves, and also played with Sydney United. So yeah.
So Wollongong Wolves, they're on the south coast.
Yes. So that's a big port city outside of Sydney. There's 2 big port cities either side of Sydney, Newcastle and Wollongong. So yeah.
And obviously Sydney United is in the city.
Yeah, the western suburbs.
Yeah, and in your time at that highest level, Colin, obviously you've come across a lot of top players. And who would be the ones that would stand out for you?
Yeah, there's a couple. I remember when I was in the youth system, the old NSL youth system, come across a young lad called Harry Kuehl. Wow. And back in the day, we played against him, and this kid, he had a mullet. I'd heard about him, and you just like, it was one of those kids you go, this kid is special. So he went over when he was to Leeds when he was about 15 or 16. But back in that time, it was all about being big and burly and strong and fast. And it was first time, like not the first time, but he was one of the, at that time, a pioneer kid that wasn't, more Messi-esque, so to speak. He was, a smaller stature than the others, but he was just unbelievable. And there was talk about him for a long time. So when he was in that system with Brett Edmonton later played with Blackburn Rovers, but he couldn't get a pass visa at the time. So it was only sort of Harry that went over. And probably when I was playing, Mark Viduka, he was just an absolute beast. So he got player of the year, top goal scorer when he was 17, 18, 19. Yeah. And you saw this guy play, and he was his touch for a big guy, it was just incredible. And I still think he's Australia's best player. Like, I know some people say Harry, but I just love watching Viduka. I know he's famous for his 4 goals against Liverpool, which was hard to watch, but he was just, he come out of that Australian Institute of Sport, and that was we don't have that anymore, but back in that ran probably 20, 30 years ago, and that was the first full-time program. So now they've got so many academies, and and a lot of it's not always the best kids in the academies. It's a lot about money and who what but that Institute of Sport was Absolute. They were training they're in this at Canberra. They were training full time, going to school full time, bunkered full time, and that's when that golden generation from that World Cup. A lot of them come out of your Lucas Neals and the Hayden Foxes and all those players. Even Jose Simonic that chose the guy that got 3 red cards by the English ref for Croatia Australia. He was actually in that he was actually in the institute as well. He chose to play for Australia, which is disappointing, but. So there's a lot of good players. Again, doesn't always have to be the best players at youth level. I remember Tim Cahill never made any rep sides. He was always considered too small, too slow. Wow. But I've never known a guy with more incredible drive. His parents sold their house to go overseas with him when he was younger, and he went to Millwall, which was the perfect club for him because he just was such a battler, amazing in the air. And, so you talk about, kids that, he is one where if you told me when we're playing youth league that he would be one of Australia's best player, no one would have believed you. So, yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Can I just elaborate on a couple of things there?
Yeah.
Firstly, Harry Kewell.
Yes.
Now, there's a Bournemouth connection, an AFC Bournemouth connection with Harry Kewell. Now, Paul, have you got any idea what it is?
I'm afraid you got me on that one, Matt. Yeah.
Right. Harry Kewell, when he come to Leeds, like Colin's just said, when he was a youngster, he come to Leeds, went through the youth system at Leeds, didn't he, before he made his debut for Leeds. He's actually very, very good friends, I think best friends actually, with a certain Warren Feeney, the Northern Ireland international, who played for AFC Bournemouth. And I believe they're both coaching together again now. I want to say they're out in Vietnam coaching. I'd have to check with Warren because I have got contacts with Warren, and we've had Warren on the podcast about a year or so ago. But yeah, so there's actually a Bournemouth connection there, which is quite interesting. Can I just ask you, Colin? The way the youth football works out there. So when you're in the youth system out there, are you affiliated with a club, or is it more like a national kind of youth system? How does the youth system kind of work out there?
Yeah, that's at the moment there's you've still got your top clubs, and they have their youth sides and their academies, and then the lower level academies. But it's mainly in Australia at the moment. I'll speak about that later. We'll talk about the A League now. It's a franchise model, so a lot of the kids will come through their junior clubs, and then the best of the best will then go into that your Sydney FCs and the Melbourne Cities, and it's a lot of academies now. As I said before, it was every kid wanted to go to the Australian Institute of Sport. Now it's academies, and then you're all trying to drive to the the A League's the goal, and a lot of the good kids probably go to Europe before they get into the A League. So that's, the best kids get picked up. A lot of pathways are through your Belgiums, and even now there's a lot of money through Asia, so Japan and a few other avenues. But great. Yeah, so I'm just trying to sort of picture how it works out there. And also Tim Cahill. I remember Tim Cahill when he signed for Millwall, and I got a funny feeling it must have been around 1999, around that kind of time. That makes sense. Yeah, that would be, because he was when I went to watch. I watched him when I went overseas. I watched him in 2005, and he was at Everton. So it would have been 3 or 4 years into that. So I think that's probably the right time frame. Yeah. So I remember him playing against Bournemouth actually when we were in the old, what was it, third tier, so the old Division 2. When he was playing for Millwall, and I remember there was a feature around the millennium. There was an article of all the top players to watch, whether it was cricket. So there was someone from the cricket world, someone from the athletics world, and Tim Cahill was actually picked from the football world as one to watch when he had just signed for Millwall. So it's interesting that you mentioned Tim Cahill's name. I've never seen anyone. He's for his size, absolutely incredible in the air. Incredible, the way he can get up. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah,
he was the Weet-Bix kid. They had like all these, like Brett Lee, the cricketer, and Tim Cahill was this a football representative for a big national program. So just because he's a likable guy. Like, he comes across as modest, where someone like Harry's sort of bit standoffish. I think that's just his personality, where Tim Cahill is, people can relate to him. He's just, a boy come good from the western suburbs of Sydney,
Yeah. Yeah. No, interesting. Sorry, Paul, back to you.
No, I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. Tim Cahill, he joined the right club, like you said, mate. He used to punch the corner flag, didn't he? Remember when he scored?
Yeah.
He'd always run over and start boxing with the corner flag. But I think there's you talk of those players, Colin, 3 very, very good household names, but there's also someone else on your list here that you mentioned as one of the best players that you ever played with was Scott Chipperfield.
Yeah, Scott won 2 Player of the Years in the old NSL, and then he went over to Switzerland for FC Basel and had an amazing career. I think he holds the most titles for FC Basel. I think he's got 7 Swiss leagues. He's got over 100 appearances for Australia. 6 Swiss Cups. He was at their glory years, but there was talk of him coming to England. I know Bolton made a bid for him, Bolton Wanderers, but he actually was very comfortable in Switzerland. I stayed there with him for about a couple of weeks, and you can get respected there, in that city. He would he was a shy type guy, and he was getting good money, but he was also, they let people leave him alone. So I think that's important for some footballers, So.
And he certainly played a few times for Australia and appeared at a couple of World Cups, Cole.
Yeah, over 100 games. He actually got he was actually when Soccer Australia or Football Australia, they call it soccer here, unfortunately. Football Australia were in a bit of trouble financially, and he got a lot of publicity because he actually paid his ticket by his own airfare to come back and play for Australia. So people related to that. So pretty famous story in Australia, yeah.
And over 100 times, I mean, that's massive, isn't it? That's massive.
Yeah.
And he was at Wollongong Wolves with yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But he was just phenomenal. Like not one of the worst trainers I've ever seen, but engines. Those guys that just have engines, and I remember Christian Gross was the manager at Basel when I was there. Remember from Spurs, Christian Gross.
Yeah,
and he goes to. And I went to their training a few times, and he used to go, "Your friend, he frustrates me, but he's so good." Because he was just the laziest guy. It doesn't matter if you're performing. There's a lot of players like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember watching him in the World Cup over here, and he was like, he played well. Yeah, for Australia, he played well.
He's a good player.
Yeah, terrific stuff, Cole.
Yeah.
So, what's your comparison, Colin, between the NSL and the A-League? What's changed?
Yeah, big changes. I think when the NSL was around, it was a lot. The hardcore clubs and the foundation clubs were all ethnic backed. So, there were first generation, second generation immigrants. That was their, they're working hard trying to assimilate to society. And the Saturday or the Sunday game at the football, your Greeks, your Italians, your Croatians, it was a big it was a big event for them, and that was the way they found their space a lot of the time in the community. And, a lot of players had more drive, like Mark Viduka was Melbourne, Croatia. He could have gone over. He was such a talent. He could have gone over. He was 16 or 17, but he wanted to play for Melbourne, Croatia because his family, They've now got the Mark Viduka stand at that ground. But, I think the difference now is, that was a lot of there was more passion and the kids were coming through those clubs had more passion as well. Now it's a franchise model, the A-League. It's full time, but there's no real if the teams aren't doing well, the crowds drop off dramatically. It's there's no actual feeling for I wouldn't say no feeling, but they just don't have that same sort of passion, the fans. And it's players go, there's no relegation or promotion, so you're seeing the same 10 sides play each other all the time. I think, that's it's sort of almost draining to watch all the time. I know that sounds bad. And players, because there's no transfer fee, so to speak, internally, they're just going for their next paycheck. And because Australian football, you're not going to retire on your wages. So they're quite happy to leave for 20, 30,000, 50,000 more, whatever. I think the average salary is there around 150,000 Australian average salary. Obviously, you got your marquee players, but I think that's the players are moving clubs every 2 to 3 years, and they just don't have that same sort of it happens everywhere, but there's not that ground level up like supporting AFC Bournemouth when you're 2 years old with your dad.
So Colin, what? Today, or actually, let's go back to when you played in the NSL. Yeah. What was your comparison? What level in England would that compare to? Would that be like Division 1, Division 2, Premier League, Championship? What do you think? Yeah,
it's really hard to say. What I'd say about another obstacle for Australia, we've got so many sports as well. So you've got some like interesting fun fact. Steve Waugh was the Australian cricket captain that played for Australia in the 90s, won the Australian schoolboy tournament for player of the tournament as a footballer. So, and then he went to cricket, and you got fantastic rugby league. Like Australian kids, they're built hard, they're strong, and and I think so. The level's probably at the lower level of I'd put it in the 1 to 2, maybe the 2 league. Like it's. And even in the A-League now, we've had some really good marquee players like Del Piero, Robbie Fowler, Sturridge. Not all of, and now we've got Juan Mata, his first year from Manchester United, his first year last year from Western Sydney Wanderers. He really struggled with the pace, and this year he's at Melbourne Victory, and he's going really well. He scored some quality goals in the last few weeks. But the thing is, I think with these players, some of them adapt. If the ball, when they're at their last, the aging legs, it's a very hard league because it's they're into you all the time. They're fast, they're quick. The skill level's obviously not up there. So I remember watching Del Piero, and what a fantastic player he was. Obviously, don't need to talk about him, but if the ball wasn't within 1 meter, 2 meters of him, forget about it. But when the ball was at his feet, wow. So that's probably the best way to describe the league. Now it's just such a hard grafting, strong,
athletic.
Yeah, very athletic. Yeah. And they can run up. That's during the World Cup. I remember an anecdote that Scott Chipperfield told me when he was with Gus Hiddink when they did really well in Germany. He basically got them together and he said, "Look, you're not going to be win by skill, but your athleticism is better than 90% of the World Cup." And he absolutely flogged them to death with the ball, and they were fit like greyhounds. And a lot of them actually the next year, even though they were on big contracts, and that a lot of them struggled the next year because of that, that intensity during that World Cup after a big season. So
So Colin, that's so interesting, mate. Have you anything you'd like to add into that World Cup situation, Maddie, or anything you'd like to drop in there to ask Colin? Or
I mean, in terms of Australia at a World Cup, I mean, what is the furthest they've got in the World Cup? Can you remind me? Yeah,
they've twice they've been to the first out of the group stages. So in 2006 in Germany, they played Italy, and that's when they had that Lucas Neal last-minute penalty when Materazzi dived. And the next game they had Ukraine, so that was very winnable. And then the last World Cup they actually beat Denmark in the last game, and then they got to the second, and then in Qatar, then they met Messi. They did really well, and they only lost by a goal. I think they had a chance right at the end where The keeper, what's his name? The Aston Villa keeper had a great save.
Martinez. Yeah, I remember
Martinez
that.
had this
I remember
save
that
right at the end. That would have really scared him going to Argentina, going into extra time with the Australians, because they would have just kept running.
I think that was 1-0. Was that 1-0, Colin?
Yeah. Messi scored early.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I remember watching that one. I do now. Now you've said it, I can picture it now. I picture Messi's goal. But just from your opinion, Colin, what do you think's required for Australia to sort of go that next step? Now, obviously, you look at England, and yes, we won the World Cup in '66, but since then we've been to, I think, what is it, three World Cup semi-finals, is it, in that time, and never managed to win the trophy again. But and now we probably have got, sort of in the last sort of 8-10 years, we've probably had teams capable of winning the World Cup. But what do you think Australia needs to sort of go that next step, from going to that sort of knockout stage to maybe the quarters? And what do they need to do you think, to achieve that?
It's real. Yeah, I think the distance from Australia to Europe, where a lot of the players are, it's very hard to have camps. So, they don't get together a lot. A lot of the time they'll have a camp in England or overseas, obviously, and somewhere close, because that's where most of the players are. But there's just a lot of the players are leaving early as well, like the young players. So they're not always in the youth teams as well. So they're not playing together. If you look at France, you see all those players like in England, they're all 18s, 21s, and that there is some of that, but there's not a cohesive type environment with distance. And I remember back in the day, like, a lot of the players would get, crucified for not coming home. But like, for the best players in England, or let's say the best players in the Premier League, they're already, had a hard season, to come 24 hours on a flight, play a game for a meaningful. A lot of the players would say, "I'll only come for meaningful games," and that a lot of fans could not relate to that. But I can understand that. Like the pressures of being a full-time footballer to come then just to play one game on a midweek in Sydney during that international break. It's tough.
I think Craig Johnston fell into that category, didn't he, Colin?
Yeah.
With Liverpool, he said that he wasn't going to travel, and I think there was a lot of controversy over that. Exactly what you're talking about, mate. Spot on. Just to go back to yourself, Colin, when you were with the NSL clubs, you were with Wollongong Wolves, which is down the south coast, and you were with Sydney United in the middle of Sydney there. With your training, how many nights a week did they have you in training, Cole?
Yeah, because it's semi-professional blokes. Most people working at the time. I was at university, so it wasn't as bad. But we'd train 3 nights a week generally, and then if we're playing a Sunday, we might come for a Sunday morning. So
did you?
Yeah. So also Saturday morning before a game. So it was no more than 3 to 4. Yeah. Now the A League's full time. They generally train in the morning. About 9 o'clock. Yeah.
In your experience, Colin, at the highest level there, was there tackling? Did the coaches say, "Yeah, go in and go for it, guys," in training?
Come on, Paul. This is Australia. That's what we're renowned for. It was like Millwall sessions.
Oh, really? I had no idea. Yeah, so you were allowed to tackle people, and I can imagine that might get a bit controversial, mate. That's interesting.
There wasn't back in the day. There wasn't, and that's changed now. There wasn't a lot of sports science. It was, the meals were, big pastas and that before games at the hotels, and lots changed.
I want to come on to that about you travelling, Colin, with the big teams in the NSL there. So they paid for your hotels, they gave you travel allowances, etc. Did they? Was that
no allowances? It was just the your wages. But they usually went on the day of a game on a flight. That's another thing with Australia. It's such a big city. Away games are a big country. Sorry, the away games are really an away game. Like your closest flight's an hour for your away game, and you go to Perth and it's 4 or 5 hours for flight, and then you sit all day in a hotel room. It's you don't adjust there. It's like they'd only have one night. So you basically fly in the morning of the game. I think they might have changed that now for the A League. Probably they go there a couple of days to acclimatise. But yes, it was. But in saying like with the old NSL, because it was semi-professional, I was talking about the multicultural clubs. When I played in the state league, the lower level, I was getting more money because they were trying to emulate to go up, because they were, play for a Macedonian or a Serbian club. They got the same immigrants, the same passion as the NSL club. So there wasn't much difference. Only the top players were making anything, and they're still working. It wasn't full time. So
and with your team meetings that you have at those clubs, at Wollongong Lords and Sydney United, how far in advance, like over here I'm in Australia, what am I talking about? In England, in England, we find out the team selection about an hour and a half before the game. So when you played at the highest level, when did you know you were in the team?
The last session. So if you're training 3 nights, say it'd be the last session, you'd find out, and then you'd travel accordingly. So
Right. So would they take, in those days, how many subs did you have, mate?
Oh, they'd take 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah. So there was a squad. Usually the squads were about 20 with the keeper. So it'd take 3 or 4.
Really interesting, mate. And you played up front, Colin. What was your favourite position, mate?
Yeah, up front striker. Yeah.
What, centre forward?
Centre forward. Yeah.
Okay.
I was about 20 kilos lighter, but
yeah. So you played up front, and I know you're a Liverpool fan. Going to move on a little bit. I might, just before we go to talk about the Liverpool situation with you, Colin, I'd like to get your opinion on that. I'm going to ask Matt if he'd like to ask you any final questions on your time playing at the top level in Australia, and then I'll just move on to the Liverpool stuff. Matt?
Yeah. Actually, I've got one. It's not really about playing, the top level, but growing up as a kid and getting into football, who was your footballing heroes, and who did you idolise, as growing up?
Yeah, I was probably obviously in Australia, I was born in the 70s, so the 80s were Liverpool, so most of my kids my age, and then if you're born in the 90s, you're United and so on. Now there's a lot of Man City fans and Chelsea fans for a little bit. It's very, because it's, you don't grow, you're not born into a side, generally you inherit it. And I think my first player besides, I love John Barnes. He was my first as a youngster. I remember that game when they lost, when Alan Smith scored, and then I think it was David Thomas when I was a young kid. I cried. There was that 2-2 draw when they lost the title. That's my first real memory. That's my first memory, and I had to play. That was early in the morning. I had to play football that day, and that was my first football memory. And that was I love John Barnes. He was my first. Yeah,
he scored that wonder goal against Brazil, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Barnes, and then probably when I was 10, I love Robbie Fowler. Was just the ultimate poacher. Could finish. Yeah, like Owen probably had more talent, so to speak, but Fowler was just at his prime. He was there. And then I actually went overseas when I was in 2005, and I stayed 2 months. A friend of mine was playing. Sorry, Bournemouth fans, for Brighton at the time, and they played at the Withdean Stadium, which was the worst stadium I've ever seen in my life. They had a running track around it, I'm pretty sure, and it had like these portable stands.
It was actually an athletic stadium. They actually sold their stadium many years before, and they were ground sharing with another club in Gillingham. And the only way they could get back to Brighton was by playing at the Withdean, which was actually an athletic stadium. It was. I was, put it this way, when I was looking forward to the away games, put it that way. So I was following that. His name was Paul Reed. I was following him around, and but I also watched a lot of games. The only top tickets I couldn't get at the time was Chelsea, unfortunately. But there's some players that you have to see, like Wayne Rooney live. Just he's a good player, but when you see him live, you just appreciate how good he is. And this, I know he's a United player, but he was just wow. But out of all of it, probably the most I saw Henry was fantastic, just so silky.
unfortunately, I saw Shearer at the back end of his career, and he was just looked like a bricklayer. he was just fouling everyone. I was up, and but Steven Gerrard, that was on Boxing Day in 2005. They're playing Newcastle, and that's another play, just box to box. So he's probably the best player English player I've ever seen. Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
live.
And you were in the UK for did you say 2 months?
2 months. Yeah, Dad's English, so
Yeah.
Dad and Paul are best mates. That's how I'm here.
You wouldn't have done it. I told him the check's in the mail. You're going to send it, aren't you, Maddie? The check's in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dad's from Plymouth. The best thing about Plymouth, the lights in the rearview mirror.
yeah. Oh God, yeah. So is he a Plymouth Argyle fan by any chance?
He is an Argyle fan. Yeah.
Right.
There's another 2 of them I've found since I've been here, besides him. No, Alan, as Colin said, I've known Alan, Colin's dad, for over 40 years. And, he himself, he was honestly, Alan, top player. I played with Alan, and he was, in my opinion, in this whole district where I live here, I would put Alan probably the second best player in the Highlands here that I've ever known and ever played with, Colin Luff. And the other guy that was probably a level above was Ziggy. As you know, Colin, you know Ziggy. Yeah. So that's just an opinion there. But no, it's been lovely to have you on. Before we go, I want to ask just one little thing. What's going on at Liverpool, Colin? I want your opinion with Arne Slot. And what's the prediction for you for the match?
I'm not Slot out yet. I think I've given him a bit of slack. He had last season to just inherit a side. I know it was a fantastic side. Yeah, I think Liverpool's first 11 on paper is probably the strongest. Arsenal's squad is ridiculous. So I think they're a level above just the players they've got. They've got a player in every position, 2 players in every position. I think. Yeah, it's probably, I think he probably last year he had luck with injuries and all that. And, and this year he hasn't had that. And I think, a bit of slack, but he's under a bit of pressure, unfortunately. So, yeah.
So what's your prediction, mate? You're playing one of the teams that are rather controversial at the moment. You're playing Spurs at home. What do you reckon? Where's that going to go, Col? Give us your prediction, mate.
3-0. Spurs are horrific. They are terrible at the moment. They're playing like a club that wants to go down.
I think, it's going to be something. It's going to be, I read in the press there, it's going to be the toss of a coin. And I think it is. I think it's going to go right to the end. It's going to be really tight. And interesting, Harry Redknapp apparently received a call from Levy, saying, this is Harry's version, saying that if he was in charge, he would have got Harry back now to see him through to the end of the season, and he felt that Harry could do the job. So it's going to be interesting to keep our eye on that situation, Colin. But Colin, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. And
hope you've learned a bit.
Actually, very, very quickly, Paul, just before we do wrap up, I'll just ask one very quick question. Obviously, Bournemouth related. What's your thoughts on Cherries and how he's settling in at Liverpool? Because for me, I've watched a few Liverpool games this season, and I don't think he's probably settled in as well as I expected. I mean, what's your views and opinions on Cherries, just quickly?
Yeah, I think he's improved slightly in the last few weeks, but he hasn't hit the ground running, that's for sure. And I think a lot of the fans probably prefer Andy Robertson there because of his long stay. So you got to get, as I said, some players just, as you know, some players just come in and thrive. I think it's taken and the team hasn't been playing as well as they have. Like back, if you put a couple of crosses in of Mo Salah's at his peak, we say he's having a great year. So it just seems a bit off the pace at the start. And I think he's finding his feet now though. But he's a very decent player. So as you know,
absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. Well, yeah. Thank you, Colin.
No worries at all.
It's been great to have you on. It's been great to learn a bit about yourself and the soccer leagues out there. I'll say soccer because that's what you guys call it out there, isn't it? But,
That's
yeah, I'll hand back to you, Paul, to wrap up.
Yeah, again, many thanks, Cole. And thank you, Matt, for the show. Been really good stuff. And let's move on.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Colin.
Cheers.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, big thank you to Colin for joining myself and Paul. Really interesting chat there. Learned a lot as well, and it's always great to hear from other people, you know, their experiences through not only their own playing career, but you know, their thoughts on football in general as well. But so yeah, thank you to Colin, and thank you to Paul as well for conducting and drawing up that interview. So thank you to you as well, Paul. Really interesting. But back on with today, and just before we wrap up. Sorry.
Say, no, it's okay. I won't be long, Matty. I'll just say, did you guys appreciate the true blue Aussie accent Colin had? Very strong Aussie. Could you pick it up?
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
And a big thanks to Colin. I know he'll be having a look at this at some point. Big thanks, Cole, for coming on. And you played at the top level, mate. You did what you could do, and well done.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming on from myself and Matt, I'm sure.
Yeah. But before we wrap up, obviously we've got to spot the ball very shortly. But first, Paul, give us your views and what's going on here today? This popped up again.
That's okay.
Oh, there we go. See, technical issues. There we go. Right, Paul, give us the lowdown, your thoughts. Obviously, for my thoughts and opinions, the Dean Court Social's out now.
Sure.
But Paul, over to you on this one, and then would you spot the ball?
Yeah, look, keep it brief, mate. I think Burnley have not won at home since the 18th of October, 2025. So what does that tell you? Unfortunately, the last game at Dean Court, Antoine Semenyo scored for Bournemouth. They got a 90th minute equaliser, which broke a lot of people's hearts. I really felt we should have won that game. We should have won that game. I think this game on Saturday at Burnley, which is always a difficult place to go, but I think we're going to have too much from, I think, a couple of danger men that we need to look out for. One, of course, is Jaden Anthony. You can't believe you're talking about an ex-Bournemouth player being a danger man, can you? But at the time he went for 8 million to Burnley, and I thought it was a mistake. If I'd have, that's a joke, if I'd have been in charge, I wouldn't have let him go. He's one for the future for Bournemouth, and he's performing to score 8 goals. He's got 8 goals this season, 7 in the league, 1 in the cup. He's doing that in a team that are in relegation form, playing well. The other guy, who is apparently now 50-50, is Xenon Fleming. He's also got 8 goals. He's a quick little centre forward, a striker. Apparently he's 50-50. He's done his calf. He's got a calf injury, and if anybody's ever had one of those, what happens with that injury, you seem to be recovering, and you go out and run, and then 20 minutes later it's gone again. So they're going to make a late call on him. Let's hope he doesn't make the squad.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, that's right. He's another danger man. So those two are my danger people there. Personally, I think Scott Parker. We all know about Scott Parker, who got Bournemouth to promotion into the Premier League. I think he knows a bit too much about Bournemouth. You know what I mean? He knows how we tick, and we did know how we tick, but he showed that at Dean Court. He made life difficult for Bournemouth at Dean Court, and I'm hoping he doesn't go and make it difficult again for us. But I'm going for a 3-1 to Bournemouth. I think we're going to do well. We haven't scored a lot of goals of late. We'll do something. And I'll just run through the team, Matt, and then we'll sign off. Basically, I think we've got to the point in the season, I think the team more or less picks itself. I think, obviously, we'll have our Serbian goalkeeper, not our Croatian goalkeeper. We'll have him in goal. And the back four, again, pick themselves. Jimenez, Hill, Senesi, Trafford. Midfield, again, I got it right. I got it right in the last game, and I think he'll stick with it. He's got to go with Alex Scott, Adams, and Christie in midfield, and up front, I'm going Tavernier, who is one of his favourites, Evan Nilsson and Rayan, with obviously a packed bench to come on. So it's more or less an unchanged thing, I think, from last week. But I'm going for a 3-1, Matt. And if people want to know your score, they'll have to have a look at your great show that's on at the moment. So
definitely. But yeah, I agree. I think we will have too much for Burnley. So yeah, let's see what happens. But sorry, go on, Paul.
No, one last thing. Aren't we lucky? 2 matches in 6 days. We've got mighty Manchester United coming to Bournemouth, and we normally beat Man United. I'm really looking forward to that one. And you'll be going, Matt?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll be there. Just quickly, thanks to Malcolm and to Chris for making sure I don't forget Spot the Ball. So yeah, we're going to do that now. We're going to do Spot the Ball. So here we go. This is the clues you had. Let's have a look at the guesses. So we've got David with C, Malcolm with D, Chris with D, Julie went C, Nick went A, and Chris went C.
No, that's from Darren. That's Darren, that one.
Oh, sorry, Darren.
Yeah.
Darren. Yeah,
Darren, the real Newcastle, he said, yeah.
The real Newcastle, yeah. So they were the clues that were put in the chat. And Paul obviously has no idea what I do. Paul, I don't show Paul this, but somehow Paul's got it right.
Well,
it's B.
Fluke. A fluke.
And that is a fluke, because I honestly don't tell Paul.
No.
I do this and I just whack it on. Paul can have a guess. And I don't think you've ever got it right before so far, Paul, have you?
I'll probably never get it right again, Matt.
As soon as you said B, I thought, oh no, he's got it right.
Right. You look at their eyes, you look at Dom's eyes, Solanke's eyes and that, and you think, and the other guy, I don't know who that is for Burnley or whatever it is, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, good one, Matt.
The eyes gave it away. So, but yeah, just jump back into some of the comments very quickly. Malcolm, excellent show, you guys. Thank you, Malcolm. Much appreciated, mate. Nick, great show, guys. My phone died 20 minutes into the program. Oh, I hope you did see Colin on the show, Colin Luff. If you didn't, Nick, do take a look back on that. It was a great chat with Colin. And David, great show. Well done, Paul, for getting Colin on board. Yeah, well done to you, Paul, for that. It was a really interesting chat. And like Malcolm said a little bit earlier on during the interview, really enjoying this content. And I really enjoyed chatting with Colin. So yeah,
you know, Matt, what I think is so good, so cool about the show is, you're portraying it from the other side of the world here as well. We're 17,000 kilometres away from you, and you're seeing myself and Colin, and you're getting another view of football. I'm stuck between calling it football and soccer, but it's great. The world game, they call it the world game, and that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's the world game, and you're seeing a completely different view of it from the other side of the world, and I think that's fantastic work that you guys are doing at the channel, mate. No wonder we got nominated for. What did we get nominated for? The best content.
Content award. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Best content. It's an honour to be nominated. That's Formula One. That's Dave.
Yeah. I looked confused. I must admit, I don't really know a lot about Formula One. I put my hands up. I didn't even know it was on this weekend, so that's probably why I looked a bit confused, David. To be fair, you caught me off guard there. I didn't realise it was on, but yeah, it must have been an early one then. If they've already done the qualifying, where is it? Do you know, Paul?
Me, I've only ever been to a Formula 2 thing at
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm not into the racing. Dave loves his cars. He loves his cars. My friend Mark, who was on here commenting, I got his car wrong. I said he had a Maserati. Oh, China. Wow.
That
I got his
explains.
car wrong. Mark's actually got an Aston Martin, which is a massively expensive. I'll be seeing that tomorrow morning. He pulls up outside and he revs his car up for me. But beautiful car. And I got it wrong. I said it was a Maserati. But all right. Look, thanks for a great show, Matt, and all the
Thank
work
you,
you do.
Paul. Thank you for your preparations with Colin. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks for everybody for giving our likes. If you haven't subbed to the channel, do please sub to the channel. Also hit the notification bell. I know Paul normally chucks this in for me because I normally forget, but I've remembered this week. But yeah, we will be back next week. Next week we will be looking at the relegation battle. Myself and Paul are going to look at the fixtures that are coming up for each team and give our opinions on who we think will stay up and who will go down. So that will be the basis to next week's show. I'm sure we'll probably squeeze a little music feature in as well as we play United the night before. There's quite a few famous bands and musicians that support United, so I'm sure we might be able to connect something there. But yeah, from myself and from Paul, once again, big thank you. And it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from him. Yeah.
See you all soon.
See you guys.
TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Mel.